Welcome everybody, and hello. This is Andrew. This is Blake Newbar's partner program. We're going to be this week talking about this frustration that a lot of people have of how do I get my name out there? How do I get my voice heard above the noise? What do I have to do? How can I kind of bring people to me? How do I build an audience? It goes beyond simply creating clicks. And I've talked about this. One of the misunderstandings that I had when it came to marketing online, I was dispelled of the notion real quick that it's just about the clicks, because you can have as many clicks as you want. If your message isn't on point, if you don't connect with an audience, it's not going to make a big difference, right? I had that Disney site. We paid for thousands of clicks, got thousands of clicks over, only sold a couple of items. And it was because I wasn't truly connecting with my audience. And there was a miscommunication as far as what they were looking for and how and what I was presenting. And so here you guys are, and you're standing and everybody's launching. And I've only talked with a handful of you that have an audience base already built in. So we're essentially starting from scratch. Okay. And I want to make that real clear, because I almost always get somebody saying, well, I don't have enough people that do fill in the blank. That's fine. Neither does anybody else. Okay. We're all starting from essentially zero. Okay. And as we start from zero, what do we need to do? There are a couple of different elements in ways that you can create a brand around a digital product. You guys are going to step out. You're either going to brand yourself, or you're going to brand a company, corporation, group, right? So first off, has everyone decided, hey, I'm going to be the brand, or I'm branding around a brand? Has everyone already made that decision? Do we have any questions on the pros and cons, or the difficulties and positives of either one? Does anyone have any questions about that? Should I brand myself, or should I do it around, somebody else?
Yeah,
We're good there.
Can you just?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Ron, and then Mike.
Yep.
Oh no, I have a question. That's the first time it's come up for me. I hadn't given that any consideration. I'd like to have some kind of explanation as to what the difference is between the two, branding oneself and branding a corporation. I mean, I get what it is. You're putting yourself out front rather than the company,
Right.
the company out front rather than you. But if you could go into a little detail, I'd really appreciate it.
So if you have the regular partner program, I want to say it's under section 9, the modules talking about Facebook. It has personal page, brand page. In the accelerator, it's maybe 11. Same type of training though, right? And then you've got also the master class on organic lead generation. But what you're doing here is you're deciding, how am I going to position, right? Because it's not just about you, it's about the audience and how we connect to that audience. We have to build awareness. So I did a training a little while back on the customer value journey, right? And content. So you can go back and you can watch, there's a couple of trainings there. I'm not going to get super in depth, but people are going to buy from who they know, like, and trust, right? That's kind of this common thing. The whole point of marketing, of advertising, is to build a relationship with someone and to help them begin to know you, like you, and trust you, so that they come to the decision that both mentally and emotionally, that what you have is worth more than the money that they would invest to get it, right? Now, people begin to do that because you instill a sense of confidence. They begin to know you, like you, and trust you. And we'll talk about kind of how you do that. But this is where deciding on either yourself or a brand name is the difference here. Now, when I'm talking about branding, we're not looking at McDonald's and Nike and Amazon here and FedEx. Okay, it goes a little bit differently, because we're not big enough, right? We don't have the audience or the marketing dollars to go after a branding campaign that is just, hey, I want people to become aware of this imagery, of this company name. We need to brand in a way that our message connects with an audience. That audience looks at it and says, hey, this looks good. I want to purchase it. Or I want to know more about it. At a minimum, I need to know more. I want to follow this person. Does that make sense? So we're in this world now that's with this digital world. Video is one of the best ways to do that, to build up an awareness. So as you look at building up a relationship with people to know, like, and trust, where they get to know, like, and trust you, if I'm building around myself, then I can be on, and it's just me, and I'm talking about me and my life, and I'm talking about all of these different things, right? And I'm going to talk about, we've mentioned the imposter syndrome, or position yourself as an expert, and how to get over that. But if I'm doing video, if the brand is Andrew, then I can just be on there and, hey, I'm Andrew, you're following me. If the brand is around a corporate entity, and it's, our team, or this is what we do, you can be on, but you're portraying essentially an image that it's bigger than just you. Or some people never want to be on video, and so they're doing video in other ways, right? And you can do that. You can pull up clips from Pixel, you can splice them together, you can get people to do it on Audible. You can do video that's just not Audible, on Fiverr. You can get video that is your voiceover over text. I mean, there's different ways to do that where you don't have to be that person in front of the camera, because some people are just scared to death of being in front of the camera, right? But if I'm in front of the camera, how much easier is it? Just imagine these calls, guys. We joke, we talk, but every once in a while I get a comment about my Funko Pop, or the dogs in the background, or the painting and things. But if every time I was doing a call, if this was all you saw was just an A, there's very little chance that you guys would have connected as much as you have, because that's the reality. So it opens up a level of transparency. Now we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and how you can become that attractive character. So this is where, as you decide, I'm going to be the face or I'm not, either way, you still need this element, an attractive character. Now this is pulled straight out of .com Secrets. I'm using Russell's stuff, but it plays into marketing as a whole. He's not the first one that originated this idea, but you guys can find this stuff. But we're going to be talking about it over the next couple of days. You need to decide on who that character is going to be. Now, when I say character, I don't mean you have to fabricate things. I simply mean you need some kind of personification of the ideals and the message that is going forth to the masses that you want to attract. Questions or comments about that? Does that explanation make sense to everybody? Are we still all here? Yes.
It seems to me, I'll give you my situation, because I'm publishing some books, I'm publishing books.
Right.
So I started a website called Teaching Tales Publishing.
Right.
Okay, and so I finally got on Facebook to do something about it. And so we're getting like 1,000 people a day with 25% engagement, which I guess is good. I don't know, and shares.
It's phenomenal. Yeah.
And but I have to do everything, make the videos and talking. So it seems that in certain situations, the person and the entity get merged and branded together. Is that
right? True? Yeah, it can be, right? There's different ways to do that. Like Blake's brand is Blake, right? But he's got a couple of partners but they made the conscious decision that Blake was going to be, the face of, right? And then, I've got kind of both. So I've got, on one hand, one of the niches that I work with where I'm a piece of the pie, and I'm helping create content. I'm doing coaching, but I'm not in front of video all day long. And then on the other side, I've got Andrew David working with digital marketers as that part of the brand. And yes, it's me, because I'm trying to connect through my story, as opposed to the story being told to, like, the addiction recovery. It's a different story. My story is told in different places as family and friends being affected. We've got others that are part of my group doing that their story is told, but it's not one person there, or at least one story there. So this is kind of understanding how it is you want to put it forth. Some of you guys just don't want to be in front of the camera. And if you don't, that's okay. But now I've got to figure out how I can shape that story to connect. So there are positives and negatives to each of it, right? You just got to, but even if you're not going to be the front and center, you need some kind of message that's going to connect. So that's what I want to go over today. We're talking about, this is where he talks about the attractive character. Okay. This is essentially your brand avatar. Now, if that's you, this is Carolyn. This is Mike. This is Juliana. This is Michael. Or This is, the brand, and it's, Joe, Jody, whoever, right? Or our team. Okay. Now, what we're going to talk about today, the key elements we're going to talk about today are the backstory, or that we're going to talk about the elements: backstory, parables, character flaws, polarity. We're going to get into the different identities and how to tell these storylines throughout this week. But what I want you to do is kind of picture for yourself. These elements are things that you need about you. Okay. Everybody on board with me? We're all still here? Okay. Now, forget about the last couple of things that he did. Everybody, who is this? Either verbally or in the chat. Does everybody know who this is?
Yeah, he's the spokesman for Subway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jared from Subway.
Jared, yes.
Yeah. Now let's forget the most recent nonsense for why he was in the news. Forget that. We're just looking at his backstory. Okay. Now, Jared was a guy who weighed 425 pounds, decided that he was going to use Subway sandwiches as a way to control his calories better, ended up losing enough that he got down under 200 pounds. He ended up losing somewhere in the neighborhood of like 235 pounds. So yes, Harley. So we're forgetting about the fact of what he's doing now. We're looking at simply his backstory while he was there. So for marketing purposes, right? So instead of just saying, hey, I'm a sandwich shop, we've got sandwiches, they had an individual that had a backstory. There was history there, right? Me popping on and just, if I was just here, if there was no, if I can talk to you about some of the things that I've done marketing wise, there wouldn't be as much of a connection. Part of this is understanding what your backstory is. Okay, what about this guy and his backstory? Who's this?
Robert Kiyosaki.
Robert Kiyosaki. What do we know about his backstory?
Two dads, poor dad, rich dad.
Yep, two dads, poor dad, rich dad.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, he had his dad, who he called his poor dad.
Yeah.
His dad was actually did okay, worked for the government, made a decent amount of money, but was in that employee quadrant. And then on the other hand, he had his rich dad who looked at life totally differently. So he talks about growing up with these two influences, what they taught him, what he learned, and now he's sharing that. There's backstory, right? How many of you guys have watched a movie and you go, how the hell did we get here? Any good movie has some kind of backstory, right? You have to have some kind of understanding of what's going on to try and connect with the audience. You guys need to start to write out your backstory. What are the elements that brought you there? This is where you don't have to be like the addiction side. I was never in an addiction facility, right? Even though I may have some of those tendencies, I've learned to kind of identify some of that within myself. I know it would be an issue if I ever went down that route. I've never had alcohol or drugs or smoking or like none of that's ever been an issue. So what would my backstory be? Well, friends and family and how that all happens, right? So there's still a way to connect with audience, right? You've got to think of why, and this is why we talk about at times, guys, selecting a niche that has something that you've got some kind of connection to. Now, if you don't, what you can start to do is tell the story, the backstory of maybe someone that you've worked with and the difference that you've been able to have, or you borrow someone else's. If you don't have it yet, you borrow someone else's story. And like, that was my inspiration kind of thing. So tomorrow, when we get a little bit deeper into this character, I'm going to give you guys some branding and mission statement worksheets like I talked about last week. So I'm finishing editing those, but they'll play into this. Okay. Now, some of you guys, especially some of you new guys, or maybe even some people have been around for a little bit, you're hearing me talk about all this. And there's I didn't know I had to do this. I didn't, what does this have to do with what I'm doing? Look, you don't have to. You don't. You can get out there without doing it. You can go start running ads right now. Some of the stuff that we go over is to help you run a business that will last, to help you understand marketing in general, right? And you either learn how to do some of this or you outsource it. and you figure it out, or you don't. I'm
And
giving
you-
you, yes, Maria.
Sorry to interrupt. Is it possible to run paid ads and then at the same time like organic, or that is
You
contradictory?
should do both. You should be doing both. I mean, some people decide they don't want to run paid ads, and that's fine. But I would absolutely be doing the organic while I would do both. Personally, I do both, right? I had to start a new ad account. I've talked about that, right? Just because of stupidity, they shut one off. So I had to start a new one just recently. You start small. I mean, I'm starting initially just for engagement. And later this week, maybe I'll show you guys, a back office that's just running some engagement ads just to kind of connect with people and start to build up awareness again. And then, you get into more. But none of it matters unless you have your headlines right and your targeting is on and you have some kind of story to tell. Okay. So it starts with backstory, guys. You've got to be able to create some of that backstory. Think about yours. Okay. Next, one of the
I
key
have a question.
elements. Yes.
Can I ask? Yeah. As you said that there should be a person. And as I said earlier, that since I am currently in a job, I don't want to come in public before I
Right.
quit the job. So can I use a avatar kind of thing
Yes.
to instead of
Yes.
coming in public upfront for
You can
some time at least?
absolutely use an avatar. What we're talking about is just someone that steps into that position of you need an attractive character. Everybody, whether it's you or the entity or an avatar in front, you can do that. Now,
Okay.
understand the whole process is to help people know, like, and trust you. It's easier to know, like, and trust someone that I can connect with in one way or another, right? And we live in a digital age.
And
Yeah,
there's
Mark.
other-
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
sorry.
Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing about the videos and stuff is that, over my life, because I'm a pretty old guy, I've given, tons of public, lectures and stuff, spirituality and religion. Right. And if you actually watch me, I have mannerisms, I mumble, okay? And I've been used to be a legal expert, and I go to court.
That's
usually they would win
editing.
if I was expert. But my point is that you don't need to be afraid about how you are, because if you want to be, celebrities are hard to approach if they look like perfect, because none of us are perfect. But
hold on, you're getting ahead of me, Michael. Hold on, hold on. You're getting ahead of. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Okay, sorry.
We're all. I got one, and then I think we're right to exactly what you're talking about.
Okay,
so. No, you're good. And Hartley's right. The part of the video, guys, it helps you connect. And there are ones where you can just type out. If you don't even want to do the voiceover, you can do that. All right, next. Attractive characters tell parables. That's why this picture is up. And I don't care what religion you are, guys. Everybody understands that that's how the man taught. And he's one of the most famous men in history for a reason, because he was an attractive character. You can fit him in. And I know there's religious leaders from any religion in the world. They would fit these elements here. There's a backstory. They taught in parables. They have character flaws. There was polarity. I'll get into this, but understanding all of these things, right? So quick, I want to say this from Matthew here to you has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, because they asked, why do you teach in parables? He says, this is why I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. Your role, the reason that you talk in parables, the reason that you tell stories is to connect with the audience, what they're trying to learn, right? And so this is where, instead of, remember, so when he would teach with the apostles, he would teach in parables, and then he would speak maybe a little bit higher. What you're doing here at some point, right? Some of you guys have been through this for a little bit, so I can have a conversation with you at a little higher level. But if you're just starting out, the stories help your audience, right? That's why what they talk about with marketing, it's between, it's like an 8th grade level that we're writing, and we're telling stories. And some of you guys are going, well, I don't have stories. Yeah, you do. Throughout your whole life, you've got all sorts of stories that you can use to relate to what you're doing here. You just haven't paid attention to them and thought about them as stories, right? I mean, if you sat and thought about it, Curtis was out fishing at some lakes over the last week or so that he hadn't been to before, pulled in some great trout. I'm sure there were a few times that he cast out there and he was wondering if he was ever going to pull anything in. And then there's this and that. And then he finally got where he's just shrugging his shoulders because he knows he's a damn good fisherman. He's going to get it no matter what. Right. But point is I can pull in a parable about fishing when it comes to marketing. Right. How many times have you cast your lure in the water and just nothing comes out? At the end of the day, you're going, well, I guess it's hot dogs again. And yet you go back out the next day and you're up first thing in the morning and you keep throwing it out there until finally you hook. And man, I'm hooking and I'm reeling it in, but it's a bit of a fight. It doesn't want to come in. I got to kind of lull it in and slowly work it till it kind of tires itself out until it's sitting in my hands and I can grill that puppy up. Your marketing is much the same way, guys. Occasionally you're going to flip out a lure, you're going to get it in the water and nothing's going to bite. Nothing's going to happen. And it's not that you necessarily did anything wrong. Maybe you just need to move over a little different spot. You need to go a little bit slower. You need to be patient because if I throw the lure in and I pop it right back out of the water, what are the odds? I'm just not going to have the time to be in front of the fish, to be in front of my audience. I need to do that a little bit more. I need to pull it in, right? So I can take anything and turn it into a parable. You guys can. Anything you got, right? Maria, the fact that you're sitting in South America, working with people anywhere in the world, some of you guys that are around the world, Jens, you're in Germany, where are you at? We got people from all over. The fact that you can sit there and go, look, I can help you no matter where I'm at. Guys, you're working with your business and you're trying to find those people. They don't have to be on your block. You don't have to go put a door hanger up there. If I can help you from India or Singapore or Malaysia or Europe or whatever, you can help them from a zip code over. That's what social media does. Let me show you how to do it, right? You guys can take anything that you want, turn it into a story that will allow your audience to connect to you. And the better that you can do that, this is where marketing copy, again, guys, .com secrets, get in there, look at it. We'll dive it deeper into all of these elements. But if my attractive character, me, or my avatar, or my company, if I can tell stories to my audience that connects with them, that they understand because it's talking their language, how much more are they going to begin to know me and like me and trust me? They're going to go, man, that guy knows what he's talking about. And it's just because I can tell a story. That's all that is, guys. That's where that connection comes in. So much more. All right. Okay.
Andrew.
Yes.
With what you just said, I just have two questions. First,
okay.
When I just go ahead and put my lure in the waters, and then I get first, when to put the lure in the water? What are the times that are the best? Because I usually post after work, but I'm realizing that it is not a 6 p.m. Central Time.
It depends on your niche and your audience. Everybody's audience is going to be a little bit different. As you build the audience, you test it out. Post in the morning, post in the evening, post on the weekends, play around with it.
Okay. And the other thing is, I heard that I saw in the course that Blake told us, hey, invite or add the people that interact with you, in Facebook, add them right away. Should we do that, or should we engage and wait a while, or what?
Does Blake say to do it right away?
I don't remember.
Then I'd watch it and figure it out. Do what he tells you to do.
Okay.
If I've got someone, now there's a way to say, hey, you should check this out or follow, or you add people. I'm not, if I comment something and someone hits I'm not gonna be like, dude, get on my page, buy my stuff. There's a balance there, right?
Yeah.
But if you have people interacting with your content and you're in different groups, then yes, absolutely.
Okay.
All right. So everybody understand the value of stories, right? Okay, good. Next, attractive characters share their character flaws. So I've used the example of Superman before. Everybody knows who this guy is, right? He's branded pretty well. Now, truth, justice, liberty, freedom, power, right? Keeping evil away, all that kind of stuff. Nearly invincible, but he's got a backstory, right? A couple of different backstories. Orphaned, found some parents, had to hide what he was capable of. Eventually he was able to step out, recognize his potential, but he's got things like kryptonite, right? One of his character flaws when it comes to being a superhero is he almost loves too much, right? Has to take care of those around him. And that's a character flaw that people can connect with. There's all sorts of other examples. Superman obviously is an extreme, but he's not perfect. Even the superheroes aren't perfect. There's something that's just doesn't allow them to be perfect. That allows people to connect. Now, this is something that a lot of people struggle with, especially if you're going to be front and center. Admitting that, there's things you didn't know, and understand this, because a lot of you guys get hung up on positioning yourself as an expert. Experts are willing to talk about their flaws, talk about their struggles, talk about things that didn't work, right? Can you name, any expert that isn't able to build an audience for a real long time, right? We were on the other day when Blake was on, he was talking about how many different times he had launched funnels that didn't work, right? His very first story, the thing that kind of got him into this, the first funnel he ever didn't convert real well, right? But it started that process, right? As you guys position yourselves as experts, be willing to talk about some of the struggles, because the audience wants to hear that. Okay, well, if Persephone, if Cheryl had some struggles with getting this set up and they're still here to help me, it's okay if I have a headache once in a while, if I struggle with it, if I don't understand, because if they didn't at the beginning, I can still do it. Now, if you're not positioning yourself, then your character or your company has to find a way to explain the character flaws, the trials that they had to overcome to get there. So that's what Michael was kind of talking about earlier, right? Nobody's perfect. So you don't have to worry about trying to be perfect as the expert. Does it make it easier to try and talk about positioning yourself to help other businesses, knowing that you don't have to be perfect to do it? Sometimes people go, oh, well, how am I gonna, they're gonna ask me questions. Yeah. So you go, that's a great question. The cool thing is, if someone types in a question on your page, or they ask you a question in a group, you know what you guys can do? You can Google it and then provide that answer. You can look it up. See, most people are too lazy to do that. They won't watch the 5-minute YouTube clip or read an article about it. So now you've got the added benefit of your learning and your teaching. So you're getting positioned as the expert, even though you just learned it, but you're a step or two ahead of them. See, the experts, the successful people, are the ones that are willing to do what other people aren't. And other people are really, they're just looking for that quick answer. Give it to me now. Right? What is it? Give it to me. And you go, yeah, I'll give it to you. Hold on. Siri, what is, right? You get your answers, guys. They're there. You don't have to be perfect to begin with. And be willing to occasionally share some of those ups and downs. Or you've got, again, borrow other people's stories, right? How they got to that point. Questions about character flaws and being able to share those in your messaging. Anybody scared to share their character flaws? Yes, I know some of you are. It's okay, right? Well, I don't want my family to see that I'm doing this. Why? Anyway, okay. Next for today. Attractive characters harness the power of polarity. They are polarizing. Now, we talked about this a little bit last week. Maria brought this up, right? Part of this is simply, there are certain elements, certain truths that you've got to hold on to, right? And it's okay to be a little polarizing. Now, you don't have to be an asshole. You don't have to be a bigot. You don't have to be a jerk. But you can be a little polarizing in what you say. There's certain principles you can hold to, right? Like the fact that anybody can do, no, there's no excuse. If you're not doing it, then you overcome it, damn it. Make it happen. There's all sorts of different things. Oh, you're here and that's why what your problem is? Well, let me introduce you to James, who's just down the road from you, who also had this problem. Oh, you've got that problem? Well, let me introduce you. I've worked with people that were blind, that became successful with digital marketing, right? People that were in traction where they couldn't move and they're on their laptop like this in bed that got themselves started. People were working 3, 4, 5 jobs, right? People in all sorts of different countries all around the world. There's always someone that can overcome it. You can do it too. Whatever it is you guys are going to have over time, be willing to share your views. And this is hard in the world that we're in. Less people are willing to share their views simply because they're scared of offending people. Right? And some of those people you're never going to make happy anyway, and they're not really going to be your customer. And so as long as you're not being a jerk about things, you're going to be okay. And you'll create fans because they want to know what you're willing to say. Any questions on being polarizing? Everybody understand? It's really just standing up for your convictions. You're all old enough. You've all developed ideas in your life that you should hold to, or the new ones that you're developing as you work on becoming a better person. Maybe that's part of it. The whole idea that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can't, a leopard isn't going to change their spots, I think is nonsense.
Yeah,
It takes a hell of a lot of work, but I think it's ridiculous to believe that no one can change. Right? Whatever it is that you want to hold to it and push. Push a little harder than you think. People will respond oftentimes in a positive way. Go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say one thing, from a psychological perspective, as we learn to share our faults, we find out that after time, our faults are just another aspect of ourselves. They may be useful. Sometimes faults are useful, but you grow by accepting that you're not perfect, and you become more perfect in a sense. Oh, we can't really be perfect.
Yeah, the better you get, the closer to perfection you get, the more you realize you have work to do, right? Is inevitably how it works. Anybody that is pushing themselves in personal development, marketing, recognize that there's more to learn. There's nobody that I've ever met that just says, oh, I know it all. Well, nobody that's successful that says they know it all. I've met plenty of people that tell me they know it all. And I always kind of laugh, and I'm like, well, if you've done that well and you know everything, then why are you changing? Well, it's because insert excuse about some outside factor that I'm going to blame all of my trials on. Okay, there's some work to do. Point of this, guys, an attractive character. That's going to be you. Pull out that mirror and say, why am I so attractive? How can I establish myself? This is what you got to look for, right? Background story, character flaws, parables, what kind of stories you can tell, and then what kind of elements, what positioning are you going to hold that's going to go forward like that people are going to be able to connect with. Okay, so this is how we start to build up the attractive character. Now there's certain different types of attractive characters, and we're going to get into tomorrow the identity and the storyline. So the identity is going to be leaders, adventurers, crusaders, reporters, or the reluctant hero. You're going to kind of position yourself. Now, obviously there's subcategories here, but you're going to be positioning yourself or your company, your brand in one of these categories. So if you want to study some of this stuff, again, it's in .com Secrets. It's around page in the 60s, 60, 70, somewhere in there, right? So you can study some of this. We're going to get into it, but come tomorrow with some questions about how to do some of these things. What elements of my backstory should I really talk about? Should I not talk about this? Oh, well, and this is something to think about, guys. Well, I spent 20 years in this industry, but I'm working with this one. How will my backstory apply? Well, let's come up with some ideas. If you guys have specific examples, we'll dive into it with you on the call tomorrow. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So attractive characters, study it out a little bit in .com Secrets. Look at it. Come back tomorrow. We're going to get more into all of these different elements so we can talk about how you can create your brand. Okay.